Hello, welcome to Transform Through Faith podcast. My name is Blaze, and I have my beautiful wife with me, and her name is Karen, but I will let her introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Karen. Welcome to the podcast. I'm excited to do this podcast with Blaze,
Mhm.
and I'll be helping with the camera and questions.
So, a little bit story about the mission of this podcast. This podcast is here to build us up, not to tear us down. This podcast is gonna be talking about relationship. It's gonna be talking about trauma and Jesus, how to apply certain scriptures to trauma. We're going to talk about therapy. We're going to talk about cycles, a tradition, like a generational curse. We're going to be talking about parenting. We're going to be talking about kids. We're going to be talking about older generation, new generation, different topics, things that just help us grow in this world today. We're facing a lot of different challenges, and sometimes when those challenges come, it's hard for us to, even if we know the scripture, it's hard for us to know how to apply that scripture to the life challenges at the hand. So hopefully God will give us insight and God will help us to share those with you guys. We don't know it all. We are not here to say we know everything. We are not master in everything, but we believe that if this is the gift that God has given us, we will share something in here that people can relate to, and hopefully they can take something here to build themselves up, as we are open to take some things from you guys to also help our own selves to grow, as we all will grow together. The theme today is about tradition can make us resist to a change, even if that change is necessary for progress. Traditions can make us resist to a change, even if when that change is necessary for progress. So my wife has a beautiful story, funny story, fun fact that she gonna share to relate to this theme. So I'll let her take it over.
Yeah, so this theme kind of reminds me of
Mhm,
the situation we had with our house and
mhm.
the wiring. So, our wiring is tube and knob. And tube and knob, if you guys don't know, is like a really old wiring. And
Yeah.
our house is like around 100 years old.
Mhm,
So when we think of this tube and knob, it's actually dangerous to have appliances of the current era.
mhm,
To have them around with this kind of wiring. So we have to change the wiring to new wiring
mhm,
so that way our appliances are adaptable to that kind of wiring.
mhm,
So it was hard to get like people to change it. It was costly, but thank God we were able to change it. So as we think about tradition, we think about how can we rewire our tradition in order to be more adaptable of today, and
mhm,
how does God come into play with that?
mhm,
But my question to you, though,
mhm. I'm
you
ready.
know, coming from different backgrounds and different traditions,
Mhm.
um, what does tradition mean to you?
I mean, as simple as a Google definition, traditions can mean customs or belief passed down from generation to generation. But to my personal definition, I think tradition is just some values or some things that we grow up with, that our parents pass down to us, that things that they tell us, hey, this as family, this what we don't do, this what we do, this how we act. Those kind of things, are just kind of like traditions, I think.
What do you think Scripture says about tradition? Like, what do you think God tells us
um
about tradition?
I think the only scripture I can think of about tradition is in the book of Mark 7, talk about Jesus challenging the Pharisees' tradition, where they were following man-made traditions, even though Jesus gave them a new commandment, they were still following man-made traditional laws and stuff like that. So that's the only thing I think I can think of when it comes to the Bible or the scripture. So Mark 7, you guys can read about it. So yeah.
Yeah. So with tradition, I know a lot of issues come within the church about like elders and young people, how we try to, compromise, but sometimes we don't compromise and it becomes a whole issue. And that reminds me of a video we were watching about African elders versus African Gen Zs. So it was a good thing to see, I think, because it kind of brings me back to what, we went through together, like that culture shock of how elders from your culture were seen as very like high up. And to me, although in my culture, my parents are from Mexico.
Yeah, Hispanic,
Yeah. And so we still respect our elders and we still see them as authoritative.
Yeah.
But for you guys, it's like I think it's a little bit more, like more of a thing.
Yeah.
And so learning about that, I was a little culture shock. I'm like, wow, like you can't like go against your elders.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about that more?
I mean, shout out to the Cruise channel. It's a video. I think we will leave it in the our
bio. We'll link it
in the
down
bio.
below.
So it's a literally video about new Gen Z generation and the other generation. I think the debate was around how the elders, they believe they know everything, and sometimes they so caught up into that where even if the young kids are right, they are not right because the elders think they know everything. So I'm not gonna spoil the video. I'll let you guys go and watch it. But I think my personal experience is that when I came to this country, like I had to learn a lot of things. Eye contact, shaking somebody's hand and looking them into the face, handshakes, and compared to how I grew up and the traditions that I was raised with. If you greeting an elder, somebody old enough to be uh, your parents, you don't look them in the face. You bow down, no eye contact. You greet them kind of like holding, the hand that you're gonna shake and holding it, stuff like that. But while I came here, it seemed different. I was going around shaking people's hand with my head down. And for some people, it seemed like I wasn't confident. They thought I had a low self-esteem, but that's how I grew up. I grew up believing that was my tradition, and I grew up believing in that. But then I came here, it's different. So I had to rewire my mind to adapt to the tradition over here, not because I hate my tradition, but because I want to be able to value the people over here too, because for them, it means a lot. If you're speaking and you're making eye contact, you shaking somebody's hand, you doing a strong handshake, it means for them. So it's kind of like being mindful of where you are and what is applying to that situation. And I think sometimes when it comes to that, some elders are not mindful of the situation because they only believe certain way, and if you're not that way, then there's no way. And if you're trying to do something different, that is making them feel like you are lost, you don't have any morals, you've lost your values. But in the meantime, it doesn't mean anything. I don't think those are more valuable than what Jesus has like call us to be. I think the laws, the commandment from Jesus, I think it hold more values to us than the traditions. Greeting somebody, looking them in the face, I don't think it's disrespectful. I think it can be respectful. But if that's how you grow up, I mean, you only can view it as you grow up to view it.
Yeah, and that reminds me, like, with me, I got asked the question, like, why do I say that my parents are from Mexico?
Yeah.
And I don't say that I'm from Mexico.
Yeah.
But like I feel like I don't want to say I'm fully Mexican because I feel like I would take that experience from my
Mhm.
parents
Mhm.
because they went through something
Mhm.
else being immigrants
Mhm.
from Mexico, and I feel like I don't have that.
Mhm.
And so I had a more easy adapt to
Mhm.
the American ways, if you can
Mhm.
say that.
Mhm.
And so, but you, as
Mhm.
coming straight from Africa,
Yeah.
like, how did the role of tradition play, or how did your ways change when you came to America and saw how different things were? Like, how did you know what to change, what things did not work, and what things did work?
I'm somebody that, like I said earlier, I love being adaptive to the new area, like because that's growth. If you are able to change and change your mind quickly to adapt to something, that's where the growth comes in. Because most of the time, when you stuck with just your own way, it becomes immature. It becomes, it's like it just become immature because there is many ways that maturity comes from being able to understand where the other person is coming from. And in order to understand where the other person is coming from, you have to get out of your own place that you come from to get in their shoes, and then you can understand it. But if you only stay in your own shoes, it's hard for them to understand what somebody else is facing. So in that circumstance, I think in a lot of different things, that challenges that I've faced, I've, always in the back of my mind. How I grow up is always in the back of my mind, but I always think about, okay, all right, this is how I grew up. All right, the person I'm talking to or the person I'm going through this with didn't grow up that way. Okay, how can I relate to them so that way I can compromise or I can understand where they're coming from?
Mm-hmm.
So I've been able to do that. So it hasn't been anything difficult.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
we talk about this all the time, and we see in like the immigrant community
Yeah.
how, which we might talk about that a little bit more about that later,
Yeah.
but just in the cases of like, working with kids from immigrant parents,
Mhm.
like I see like the turmoil because the
Mhm.
parents want,
Mhm.
still that traditional
Mhm.
way,
Mhm.
but then the kids go to like school
Oh
and
yeah.
they experience something
Mhm.
outside that's
Mhm.
different from what their parents are
Mhm.
teaching. And I think
Mhm.
that's where like conflict comes in families,
Mhm.
because the parents want to still hold on
Mhm.
to those traditional ways, and
Mhm.
the kids want to go out and explore and still see other things.
Mhm.
But do you think there's compromise in that, or do you think that it's one way or the other?
I think most of the time, I think, people just don't know how to do it. And I'm not expert over here to tell somebody
Mm-hmm.
how to do it, but I can only share my opinion of
Mm-hmm.
how I think it should be done. I think one of the most important thing is that when somebody doesn't feel safe, they can't share nothing. People need to feel safe in order to open up. And I think if you from Africa, immigrate to this country, or Hispanic, and you used to raise kid, or you were raised with certain values, and you give birth to kid in this country where it's freedom country, it's freedom. So
Well, it's more free. I wouldn't say it's free.
kids are allowed to do certain stuff at certain age compared to Africa. It doesn't matter if you are a teen, your parent can still beat you up, but you can't do nothing. But over here, it's hard to do because people can call police on you or get you in trouble. So I think the reason why I talk about safe space, I think sometimes when as a kid you have opinion about something, or you feel a certain way and you want to communicate that with your parents, and that come across as you don't know anything, or you don't know what you're talking about. I'm the elder in here. You only have to listen to me, or you have to do it my way. It's only my way. That just break the kids.
Yeah.
Now you broke the trust.
Sorry, what's the proverb that is always said?
Oh, what an elder can sit down. What an elder can see sitting down, a child cannot see even if they climb on the tallest mountain. So, creating a safe space, encouraging conversations, for kids to, talk and express how they feel without parents being judgmental, because I think that's one of the things I've learned. I came here when I went to church. First time I went to a church, and the pastor had tattoo all over the body. It was something that threw me off because as in African country, I don't know. I'm not speaking for all African countries, but the place I grew up in, if you were pastor, you had a lot of tattoo. I don't even think you will get any member at your church, because as Christian in the country I grew up in, you you have to act a certain way. You have to dress up a certain way. You have to just certain norms you have to be in. And when I came here and people go to Jesus as they feel like, it's something I was not be, judgmental of.
Culture shock.
Yeah,
Yeah.
culture shock, until somebody has to tell me that people can come to Jesus as they feel like, and Jesus welcome them as they come. They can be broken, they can be ratchet, they can be anything, and they can come that just like that. We are nobody to stand in their way to tell them. Until we tell them that, we need to know where they come from, understand their experience. Then maybe we can relate, we can have compassion, grace toward them, because Jesus gave us that grace. It's not like we are more perfect than them. It just something might be better somewhere than them, but we still all broken people. So I think being able to understand where people are coming from, then we can extend them grace and compassion. Then we can be fine with them, and hopefully they start learning from our lifestyle. Yeah.
And coming as like a Mexican American, I get the phrase a lot that I'm trying to get rid of my culture, or
Yeah.
I don't want to be like my culture.
Yeah.
So I know tradition is good
Yeah.
in some ways.
Yeah.
So how do you know when to change your tradition or change some things about your tradition?
I think I try to stay conscious of myself. I think, I can be talking to someone in the moment, I can be arguing as my point is right. But afterward, I'm gonna think about it, and I'm gonna ask myself, was I really right? Or was I just too stubborn to understand where the other person is coming from? So that self-reflection allows me to just dive into my own self, and most of the time I can see that I wasn't fully right, and I can understand where the other person is coming from, and kind of relate to them.
Yeah, and I
don't
think
know.
a big pointer is you were talking about this earlier, how God will let us know.
Yeah.
I think once we get into the scripture, like we know what things to filter out and things that we can use from our tradition, because not all of how we grew up or our background is all bad. No, it's just some things some things that can be toxic. Sometimes God calls us to change that for His purpose. So I think that's one of the ways. But we did have a question for the audience. Do you mind reading that?
The question for the audience is, what are the traditional ways of thinking that are holding you back? What are the traditional ways of thinking that are holding you back? And how do you rewire your mind in order to move forward? And this question goes to all of us.
How would you answer this question?
I think, if I will answer this question, I think traditional ways of thinking that are holding us back, I think those would just be as, this is we can't get rid of this, the way I was raised, showing emotions can be mean, as especially as a man. Showing emotions make you seem like you are not man enough, while in the contrast, those can be so powerful thing. Even Jesus showed emotions. When Lazarus died, even Jesus cried. Jesus, felt compassion toward the poor, felt compassion toward people. So showing emotion, I don't think it's weakness, but the tradition made us feel like it's weakness. So I think those ways are things that I used to think they were weakness, but as I learn more, I take pride into those, being emotional, because it's a beautiful thing. I think it's a powerful, and if you don't do it, I encourage you to do it because it's powerful, and then your
Yeah.
kids, your family can benefit from it.
Yeah, maybe we'll do an episode
Oh
about
yeah.
couples therapy because I think that was another tradition that we both broke. But yeah,
Yeah, so yeah, before we close, I think, I'm gonna try to make a quote at the end of every episode. So today's quote that I want to make, that coming from me, is that changes are beautiful thing. A change is a beautiful thing, but I think people are scared of the things they are gonna lose in order for that change to come. Change is beautiful. When somebody used to sleep in one, like he's sleeping somewhere and they're so comfortable, they just love that place. And sometimes if they like that bed sheet so much, it's just their favorite. Once you take that away and change it to new, sometimes people view that as, no, it's not good, it doesn't feel the same. But if they try to view it as, okay, this is something new, let me adapt to it, this bed sheet is just gonna end up feeling the same as the old one. So if we can rewire our mind to adapt to a change, I think we're gonna have a beautiful result from that. So change is a beautiful thing, but people are afraid of a change because of the things they are going to lose in order for that change to come. Thank you guys, and see you next time.